Um, Welcome everyone to this evening session. Glad you could make it. So, Sally, you had a question. So, if you don't mind, just asking that, and we'll speak to that. Start off our session with that.
I just wanted to know how grounding fitted into the Course in Miracles when they say, when you're doing your spiritual development, they talk about you must be grounded.
Yeah, well, the answer is it doesn't. There's nowhere in the course that Yeshua talks about grounding as any kind of concept that he thinks is of value. So I guess that's got to tell you that he doesn't think it's very important. Otherwise, it would have made it into the 1,300 pages. There are a lot of concepts in so-called spirituality, in quotes, that are not particularly, they're certainly not non-dual, which means that they're not spiritual at all. They masquerade as spiritual. So things like mind, body, and spirit. You need to balance mind, body, and spirit. We've heard that one, haven't we? Grounding. You need to be spiritually grounded. What does that actually mean? Does that mean you acknowledge this world as some kind of reality? What does it mean? Do they ever explain it? Someone says you need to be grounded. What does that mean? Does it mean you need to have your feet on the ground here, like be able to deal with practical life? Does it mean you perceive the world as real? What do they mean by that exactly? I'm not sure they would even understand it. What is spiritually grounded? What does it mean?
I think it probably means coming out of your head, bringing your energy down, but that's actually also coming back to your true self in many ways. So,
well, again, what is it? You have to look at the meaning of the concept. What does it actually mean? It might mean different things for different people. For some, it might mean, yeah, you need to come into your heart center, which then you could say, well, go into your heart, go into your feelings rather than your thinking mind. That would probably be a better use of the word, descriptive term. Or they could mean that it's, you got to be more practical. You're kind of floating in the ethereal spiritual realm, and you're not, managing your life. So you need to get more grounded, i.e., more practical, more like in the real world. Maybe that's would be my understanding of the term. I've heard it before, but I'm not sure there's any absolute definition. It's like one of those things that's been bandied around, but what does it actually mean? And it has no place in the course. He doesn't use the term at all. He never says you need to be spiritually grounded. He's saying, no, what you need to do is realize that this world is not your home and everything here is false. So how do you then ground yourself in a reality that's false? You see that there's the problem. So it's not a non-dual concept. It doesn't really fit into a non-dual teaching. You don't ground yourself. I mean, the idea is again, it's dualistic, because mostly they'd say, well, yes, it's all very well, the spiritual domain exists, but ground yourself into another kind of reality. But that makes that reality real. And so now you've got still duality going on in your mind. Yeshua's sole message is, look, only the truth is true. Only the spiritual domain is actually real. That's the real. That's reality, and everything else is illusion. So you must choose. It's one or the other. You can't ground yourself into a false reality and then also choose simultaneously and exclusively choose the truth and true reality. Because by definition, you've got something else going on. Oh no, we need to be grounded in this world. So I don't think the concept's very helpful if you're trying to escape the illusions. If you want to stay here and you want to give the ego justification for hanging around in your mind while you're on some kind of spiritual path, supposedly, then yeah, I guess the concept would work, because it keeps this world real in your mind. So as an alternative, because people say, well, how do I practically manage my life? Well, you ask for guidance. You ask for guidance from the Holy Spirit. and it can actually manage the details of your life quite well in a state of flow. You know, you get guidance, you flow, and you can be quite effective in the world, even though you realize you're not really in it. Be in the world, but not of the world. So that's, you know, that's a much more useful concept, guidance, as opposed to grounding. Ask for guidance, and the Holy Spirit can, because it has as a function of interpreting this world from the perspective of oneness, it can actually give you guidance, specific guidance in this world. Well, what more do you want? You've got divine guidance coming through and telling you, you know, what to do. Grounding, would the Holy Spirit tell you to ground yourself into this reality? I don't think so. It's trying to get you to transcend this reality. While still, you know, it doesn't want your life to fall apart and everything to, you know, to go awry for you. It wants you to have a happy dream. So, yeah, it can help you to practically manage details of your life that need to be managed, but without any of the ego's dramas. So there's no fear and guilt and anger and so on that the ego specializes in, attached to what it's asking you to do. It just says, do that, and you can do it in a very clear, unattached way to get things done on a practical level without any negative emotional drama attaching to it. So I'd say that's a much more useful concept. And the Course does talk about guidance. It doesn't talk about grounding, it talks about guidance from the Holy Spirit often. So if it doesn't make it into the Course, you probably know that it's not really relevant to Yeshua's thought system. Otherwise he would have used the term and brought it in.
That's a good question though, Sally, because I know when I've done stuff, and if I speak to people who I thought were more knowledgeable than me, they'd say, oh, Susie, you need to go and ground your energy, go quickly outside barefoot, and, you know, so you'd go running to the garden and make sure your feet are on the mud, and, you know, because it's telling you to, but that, you know, that's what people tell you to do because your energy is all over the place. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, okay, then probably, but nothing ever made me feel any better. But I did it. I went along with it. Yeah. So I think, you know, it's a good question, like you did the other day about boundaries. But I just think that you do get a lot of people saying you need to ground yourself, and they would give you tools and techniques to ground yourself. But I just think now with you speaking, it's all about just being present and being aware.
It's coming from true awareness.
Yeah.
The problem with grounding, it's often associated with you know, sort of earth energies, and you need to connect with the earth and Mother Earth and Gaia and all that kind of stuff, which honestly is not helpful, because
So
you're making an illusion true.
You're connecting an illusion to another illusion. The reason it came up was because when I was learning spiritual healing decades ago, I used to be really into meditation, kind of floaties. I don't know, how do you describe it? I was in my own little happy place. And then the teacher said, you know, you've got to ground yourself, bring yourself present. It's all about taking the roots down from your feet into the earth. And what I took from that, it was that perhaps I wasn't experiencing the world through the body. I didn't know at the time it was an illusionary body, but in some way it did help because I became more present rather than kind of be off in this world of, I don't know, alternative planets and I don't know.
Was it I mean, you were going into the astral world and, you know, fantastic visualizations and
yeah. So it was very enjoyable. But when the teacher said, but you're here in a physical body to have a physical experience, she didn't say have a physical illusion, but a physical experience. And I thought, yeah, you know, kind of got this body, might as well experience it, might as well play the game. So I did ground myself, and I did feel like I was more present. But, you know, lately it hasn't made any sense to me, really. I think the only thing it does is if someone suggests going out in the garden and hugging a tree or standing on the earth, it kind of connects you with nature. for a short while and you're in a place where you're thinking less, and you're doing something self-care, supposedly self-care wise. So you just take it how you can take it, don't you? But it's nice to know that that's just another dream world illusion. Trying to ground this
a lot of these
imaginary body.
concepts, you need to be present in a physical body. You came here to have a physical experience. I mean, like, it's just nonsense. It just said you didn't come here to, the spirit didn't put you here to have a physical experience. You decided. It's a delusion. You decided to depart from your your true self, and as a result, you're here. But the whole thing's a dreadful mistake. So there's no kind of divine design. God put us here to have a physical experience, suffer and die. That's nonsense. It's all our own making. We made up a bad dream, and now the only way out of the dream is to realize we're dreaming. All of it's a dream. Whether you're hugging a tree or feeling the mud in the garden, all of those sense perceptions are part of a dream world. Which you need to escape, because that dream world is trapping your mind. It's stopping you from realizing your true nature as pure formless awareness, perfect love. It's going to cause you endless suffering and eventually death. And Yeshua's saying, well, you can escape. Your true awareness is beyond all that. This is all an illusory construct of the mind. So don't buy into any of it. He's saying not one thing here is true. Nothing you see means anything. And on it goes, really to get you to realize that most of these concepts that a lot of people call spiritual are not helpful. They're not non-dual. They're some kind of compromised dualistic spirituality that can make people feel a bit better, possibly, but it's not going to free your mind. You're not going to go back to pure formless awareness as long as you have those concepts as some kind of reality in your mind, because they make the illusion real. You ground yourself into the illusion. Well, why are you grounding yourself into what's not even there? How's that possible? I mean, Yeshua says the world isn't even there. There is no world. How can you ground yourself into something that's not there? So it's completely different teaching. You won't reconcile most spiritual teachings that are dualistic with these kinds of dualistic concepts with the Course, because it's pure non-dual. It just says, is this reality or this reality? The one is illusion, the other is truth. Only the truth is true and nothing else is true. And so let everything else go completely, right? So complete, not bring some of it in, bring some illusion into the truth and compromise. That's not the message at all. If you really want to be free, you must choose the truth and the truth alone, and therefore let go of all illusions. So all these kinds of concepts, just they've got to go. They're part of the ego's dualistic illusory world, which ultimately is illusory and cannot save you. Does that answer the question? You want to discuss it more?
Yeah, it does answer it, but then also that means meditation is an illusion. Sitting in
forgiveness is an illusion. Forgiveness is an illusion. It's all illusion, but there are illusions that end illusions. So Yeshua says, forgiveness or letting go is the only illusion that ends all the other illusions. So that's a good illusion to believe in, to practice, because it's actually going to get you out of delusion.
But I was going to say, I've always thought, especially when I did mindfulness about 5 years ago, when I started that, I always thought it was about awareness. So I never ever, it's like I never really, I don't feel that I'm in a meditative state. I just think I'm aware. My awareness gets deeper. That's all it is. That's what I believe meditation is anyway. Because I've reminded myself of the dog, because he's so alert. So am I. Nothing bypasses me. I'm just in that stillness, but I'm aware of everything that's going on and off. And I can do that virtually anywhere, on the bus or anywhere, because I just believe it's about awareness. I don't, I think when you talk about these, I mean, like hugging a tree, for instance, I can remember going out with a load of people once, and they were saying, you know, come on, let's all pick a tree and just, and I went with it. It just makes me wonder, when you're speaking, I think to myself, oh my gosh, the things we do. Because yeah, I got it for a bit, but they says, can you feel the energy from the tree into your hands? And I'm like, no. but this is, but it just, when you're having a conversation like this, you can just brutally be honest and just think, gosh. And I just went along with it, but I didn't go along with it because I was only there a couple of times, because maybe on the first time I may have felt something, but I thought, oh, it may have been something else. You know.
Yeah, so there's a lot of, you know, energy work and feel the energy, and really what you're trying to tap into is something beyond energy. It's pure formless awareness. So that tree has the same awareness as you do, which is a non-dual awareness. So the tree is not in any way separate from you, and you can perceive that maybe more easily in a tree than, say, in a human being, because trees don't speak and they're quiet and they're still. Humans have, you know, egos going on, and they tend to speak, unfortunately. So they're quite challenging to often see the, you know, the pure formless awareness in. But a tree or a plant or something natural, which is just still, it's naturally, it's not moving a lot, it's just rooted there in its beingness. Well, that can be something that can help you to connect with your own beingness, your own, you know, pure awareness. As does meditation. You're right, it is all about awareness. You know, what awareness are you in?
And the more I'm doing, and the more I'm doing this, I'm beginning to realize that you are remembering who you are, and there seems to be just a deeper knowing now that you're coming to your true self, because it's always been there. It did get clouded over by XXX, whatever I was believing or whatever. But the more, you know, I've had those little nudges of knowing. So it's like, wow, you know. But to me, I have to say, for me, meditation, because I really struggle to meditate, and people telling me all different things how to do, but I couldn't stop this. I was so alert, even sitting there. And then I thought, well, I'm quite peaceful because I can hear things, I know things going off, but I felt okay about it. So I started to realize that meditation's purely about awareness. You're being aware of where you are, what you're thinking, what you're feeling, but you've got that stillness, and you know the spaces within you that can.
Yeah, there's different ways of meditation. So
Right, okay.
the one way is to what you're describing is typically a kind of mindfulness, associated with mindfulness. You know, you watch your breath, or you observe the body sensations, and through that there's a stilling of the mind, because you by focusing on the body sensations or the breath, you quiet the mind. So you're not now jumping around and, you know, thinking about the past or the future. So it's a way to quiet the mind and come into some kind of deeper awareness. You know, there's a pure formless awareness kind of arising. So that's one style of meditation. And a lot of
But what you shared at the weekend, one of your videos, which I did try, I did find that quite difficult to do. When you were, it Saturday, I think it was, when you're holding your breath for a bit, and I did it for a bit, and I like how the sitting and holding your ankles rather than your, you know, sitting in a cross-legged pose. And I have tried that. I do find that difficult, but I did do Kundalini for a while, and I found that it was all right. But again, you're following somebody else's mantra and whatever. But I think you've got to find what suits you, haven't you? You've got to just find what works for you.
Yeah, there's many meditation styles. So being aware of the breath and sense perceptions is one, and it's quite a good one. That was what the Buddha taught. You know, it's his style of meditation. It's called Vipassana, and that can quiet the mind. It's all about quieting the mind and bringing in this true awareness beyond thought, beyond the thinking mind. You know, all of these techniques are a way to get into that deeper awareness. There's transcendental meditation, which Jackie does, which has a slightly different approach. You use a mantra and you don't focus on the body or the breath. You go deeper into the mind, into a transcendent, the name says it, transcendent awareness. So there's just pure formless awareness. And that's where I started my meditation journey. So those, I'd say those are probably the two major approaches. You got, being aware of breath or body sensations to quiet the mind. And then the other one is using a mantra to still the mind and actually just go deeper into the mind, into your own awareness, and let go of all sense perceptions. So there's a withdrawal into the mind. I would say a transcendental meditation approach. In the end, you'll get to the same place, because in the end, is just there is only your true awareness. They're just different pathways, and for you, like Vipassana might work better because it sounds like you're quite sensory. So okay, well, just if you can just observe sense perceptions without judgment. So you're sitting there, or even if you're just walking around, you're noticing things, but without judgment. The mind is quiet and still, so you notice, okay, well, there's a sensation in my hand, and there's breathing, but the mind is very quiet. You're not judging all this. Just by bringing yourself into heightened awareness, by noticing, you actually quiet the judgmental mind, the monkey mind. And so it's a way of bringing stillness into the mind, which has now been popularized through mindfulness. They just took the Buddhist Vipassana and they said, okay, well, we'll just rebrand it. We'll call it mindfulness, but it's the same thing. And that's been quite helpful, because a lot of people are very sensory oriented. You oriented in your sense perception. So it works through those to ultimately transcend them. Whereas a transcendental meditation approach is saying, okay, well, we're letting go of the senses. We're not going to focus on the breath or the body. We're just going to focus on a word, a mantra, and by focusing on that, you're going to quiet the mind, and you're going to go, deeper within, and you're going to let go of all the sensory awareness.
Well, that sounds good, because I do sometimes think I'd like to not be so sensory. I just think it's the way I know, I guess. And I think sometimes when you do a mantra or something, I can start talking about something else. I don't know. I may have tried something, but I'm not sure. But that sounds.
No, that's it. You can experiment with these things and see what works for you. And then there's, Yesha's type of meditation with the course is quite. He's using a simple sentence. It's sort of the key idea for you to meditate on, and then I'm bringing in words. So you go into a quiet state, and then you're receptive. So the words come in, and they help you to get into that state, and then you actually absorb information in there more effectively than if you were just trying to learn it in a normal state. So that's another approach. They're all, but they all ultimately take you to the same place, which is your true awareness, pure formless awareness, the perfect love, God. They're all approaches to opening you up to that awareness, getting more access to it. So they ultimately will all work. Just depends on each individual, and you can't do all of them necessarily. So you've got to choose. What works for me, and go with that. And you can mix it up. You don't just have to do one style. You can mix it up. So you could do, the meditations I sent you. Those are more kind of focusing on the lesson and learning, and allowing quite a lot of words. And then alternative would be to do the Vipassana, just observe breath, observe sensations. And you can mix them up in the meditation. So you can do a bit of the, okay, let me just watch my breath. And I always, start the meditations with a bit of breath watching, observe the breath, get calm, get quiet, and then, then move into the lesson. So you can actually combine the approaches as well. And just have fun. You can't really get it wrong. It's just your own awareness. It's all pointing in the same direction. So play around, see what works for you, and once you know what works for you, then use it.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Any other questions?
But surely it doesn't matter what position your body is in when you're doing meditation, does it? Because the body's not real. But so often in meditation, it's like sit back straight and all this, when really that doesn't seem.
Well, it matters and it doesn't matter. You know, if you let's say you lie down and you're prone to falling asleep, then you're going to fall asleep, and you're not going to have a meditative experience. So that's why a lot of them say don't lie down, because you'll tend to then go, it's not the state of consciousness you want. You want to be aware but not asleep, in a meditative state rather than a sleep state. So that's why they say in the Vipassana, certainly most meditation techniques are, sit straight. The reason they say sit straight and upright is that if the spine is straight, it helps the Kundalini energy to rise, and that's quite helpful, in unblocking the chakras and opening everything up. So ultimately that's illusion. It's not ultimate reality. But so is forgiveness. It's all illusion, but it's like, what's going to help you in the illusion? Is it helpful temporarily to help you escape? If you keep your back straight, in my experience, you will tend to get more of a rising up of that Kundalini. You'll feel that energy, and when that rises into the crown, you can have some pretty interesting spiritual experiences. That's part of spiritual awakening. So that's why in the East they say mostly, sit upright, back straight, because it facilitates that Kundalini rising. And they figured out that when the Kundalini does rise, and it goes into the head, you'll have a samadhi experience, and you'll go into a non-dual state. So it's all just to help you to have an experience of your true self, of higher awareness. All these modalities, if the modality becomes a god in itself, and you start going, well, no, you have to do this because that's what the teacher says, or that's how we've done it for hundreds of years, and it becomes very ritualistic, then you're missing the point. Is it helpful in your awakening process? And that's always the attitude I've taken. So like for Vipassana meditation, I do lie down mostly, because then the energy flows, and then I figure, well, if I need sleep, then I'll sleep, and that's okay, because then the meditation is like a deep sleep. I tend to go quite deep, and then that's what I need. And that works for me right now, because I don't get that much normal sleep. So I went, okay, that for now that works, but maybe in a year or two I'll change it, because I'd like to sit more. What I found with the Vipassana, if I'm lying down as well, is that there's more of a free flow of energy. And that's kind of what the whole point was. I said, well, what's the point of this? And speak to the teacher. No, the whole point is to get the energy flowing through your body. So I'm like, well, if that's really the whole point, why are you sitting in such a constricted position then? Because that's going to stop the flow, kind of logically. Well, because you don't want to fall asleep. Okay, yeah, there is that. But if you can stay awake, so often what I'll do is I'll do an hour, and then half an hour will be kind of a sort of, it's a kind of a meditation, sleep, definitely a deeper state, and then I'll come out of it and I'll feel a little bit refreshed, and then I'll stay in it for another half an hour, and then I'm conscious and I'm just moving the energy up and down the body, and I'll do some breath holding, and then it feels, that's like much more flowing than if I was sitting upright in a cross-legged position, an uncomfortable position. It's almost a bit, I don't know, you get the sense maybe that they're kind of self-flagellating a bit. It's like, no, you've got to sit for hours in this really uncomfortable position, because if it's really tough, then you're going to get more benefit. That's sort of the logic, and I don't buy it. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it needs to be, really painful to find bliss. But it's like, when I went on it, it's like, no, it's the toughest meditation in the world. It's like proudly said, the teacher says. I'm like, Well, who cares? Why does it need to be the toughest meditation? Is it the most effective? Does it actually awaken you to your true self? That's really the question. She still didn't know that there was anything else other than the impermanent, anicca, as they call it in Buddhism, after 25 years of meditating like this. I was like, well, that's like that's not a great example. You've spent hours, like thousands of hours. I mean, she does 4 to 6 hours a day, apparently, and like long 10-day retreats, 20-day retreats, 60-day retreats, just meditating 10 to 12 hours a day. And you still haven't got that there's a permanent self there underneath illusion. She said everything's illusion, everything's just impermanent. But that if that were the case, then you would have no existence. There would be no permanent self, would there be? So you're missing something, which then you go, well, maybe the technique needs some tweaking. It's a good technique, but maybe it just So I've always been like, well, the tradition is fine, I'll learn it, and then if I think it needs changing, then I'll change it, because if it doesn't work for me, then but it could work with a tweak or two, then I'll do it. Because why are you you're bound to tradition? A lot of the great spiritual teachers, like the Buddha, I mean, he was an innovator. He came in, he said, no, okay, this is all wrong. The current meditation style and the way they were doing it, he said that you've got it wrong. And he came in with this, new ideas and a new style of meditation, which became Vipassana. And so he was an innovator. He said, okay, there's another way, called it the middle way. And of course, the establishment didn't like him. But then over 2,500 years, it becomes, okay, well, that now becomes fixed again. And people are too scared to say, well, hang on, maybe this could change. Because the Buddha gave it, then it's set in stone. This is how it's going to be forever. Well, is that necessarily so? I'm of the mind, well, ask for guidance, ask for the Holy Spirit, and it'll tell you, what works for you. When I lay down and I did that bit of Vipassana at the end of the retreat, that was one of the most profound spiritual experiences I've ever had. It was amazing. If I hadn't laid down and listened to the guidance, I wouldn't have had it. So that just goes to show you, often it's the rituals and the practices can help you to a point, but you got to go beyond them. If it becomes too ritualistic, and I definitely got the sense with let's say that teacher, it was about the practice. She was like addicted to the practice and forgotten that the practice is a means to an end. And ultimately, the practice should be awakening to your true self. And maybe you don't need to do hundreds of hours of, there's quicker ways. You don't necessarily need to sit for 10 hours a day or 6 hours a day in meditation, which is what Yeshua says. And you don't, these means are tedious. You can sit meditating for 20 years, contemplation, I think he called it, for 20 years, and eventually, because of your intent, you'll get there. But he said the means are tedious and they're quicker ways. He said he's going to give us the fast track, which is this forgiveness, radical forgiveness, particularly applied to relationships. So if you can apply it to your special relationships and transform them, then that's enormously freeing. It's the fast track, because those are the most difficult areas where your ego likes to play. So he's given us the guidance, and he's given us, I think, the quickest way, and he's given us a meditation practice, saying, well, meditate on these lessons. That's his meditation style. Just if you're following the path, following his path, his course, then do it, because there's a reason he's asking you to do it. And I think what he's saying is, in a meditative state, which is an altered state, you're more likely to learn these things. You'll learn ideas more deeply in an altered state. So give it the time, give it the longer practice periods. He recommends 10-15 minutes, and in the shorter ones, just interrupt the pattern, even if it's just for a minute or two. You're interrupting the ego's default pattern, and so that's his meditation technique, which I do as a very much part of what you're doing if you're on this path. And then you can do other stuff as well if you want to. You can incorporate some other meditation, and you could merge them. You could do a deeper meditation and then come out of it and then go into one of his meditations on the lessons. So play around with it and just see what works for you, and that's what mastery is about. It's about, okay, I'm working this out for myself. What actually works for me, and what style of meditation works for me, and again, it's not about being ritualistic. So remember, the whole point is to connect you with your true awareness. So if it's doing that, then it's fine. The form of it doesn't matter. Any other questions on that or thoughts?
No, I completely concur with what you just said, that I like lying down to meditate because I think the energy flows through better. If I'm sitting up in an uncomfortable position, I'm thinking more about the physical body than I am about the meditation. So I don't fall asleep when I meditate. I'm very comfortable while I'm doing it. So yeah, glad to hear your.
It doesn't have to be uncomfortable. I think part of it, that sort of old school mindset is that if it's uncomfortable physically, then you've got to overcome that. So you've got to go beyond the the physical discomfort and find a stillness anyway. Maybe there's some value in that, but it can be a bit like, well, you're just doing it for the sake. It's almost like self-flagellation. You're punishing yourself. And so that there's an idea there of, well, the more the harder it is, the more I punish myself, the more I'm going to wake up and become enlightened. But that's not the case. And the Buddha, I mean, his whole life experience says that otherwise. It's funny because even though he had the experience of doing, I mean, he really he was an ascetic. He really went deeply into these practices to the point of near death, and they nearly killed him because he wasn't looking after his physical body. He was like hardly eating, so he got absolutely emaciated and weakened, and his teeth were falling out, and he was malnourished. And eventually, he realized this isn't the way. Starving myself and trying to kill the body with these really harsh ascetic practices is actually not working for me. It's not connecting me with source, and he found it when he let go of all that. He literally just gave up. He said, I'm so tired of all this stuff, and he just sat under a tree and he gave up on all the practices, mentally and emotionally. And then it happened. He just went, oh, it's actually in the complete letting go of all of that striving and that discipline and trying to achieve enlightenment that he got it. And so, but then his so-called followers, they follow, they're making the same mistake he did, I think, a lot of the time, because it's like, no, we've got to do this really harsh, strenuous practice to get there. And his message was, well, you don't necessarily, you just need to let go. And the middle way is not middle way meant not incredibly harsh and ascetic, and neither indulgent and pleasure seeking. It's in between, and it's moderate and it's reasonable. I don't think he expected people, when he taught them, he didn't say you have to meditate for hours a day. I think he gave them a technique, and who knows, but he said do it for an hour or two, not you don't have to do it all day. And that's why Buddhism took off, because he gave people a technique that was very practical, that helped them, and they would meditate and they'd get the benefits, and they would, instead of a dogma, he'd say, okay, there were some principles like the noble truths, but primarily it was experiential, saying, well, meditate and you'll experience what I'm teaching. And so, which is why Buddhism is a very different characteristic quality to, say, the Western teachings, which are more dogmatic. No, you must believe. You must believe in, this is the way. Jesus is the only Son of God. He died for your sins. Dogma. You must believe that. Islam, pretty much the same. You must believe in the Quran and the what's been written down by the Prophet. Not go and meditate and just find out for yourself. So a very different feeling. And this teaching of Yeshua is much more aligned with Buddhism, much more experiential. He's saying ultimately universal experience is what's necessary. universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience, not only possible, but necessary. So experience it for yourself, and then you will have no doubt once you've experienced it that it's true. And that, what everything he's saying is true because you've experienced it for yourself.
I've only been doing transcendental meditation for a couple of weeks, but I find it very gentle. I've done Kundalini before, and that can be quite intense. There's a lot to remember, and a lot of holding your arms up, and it's not that comfortable. But transcendental meditation, you can just lie down. The emphasis is on the gentleness of the mantra, and it's almost feels like being held by spirit. You haven't. I mean, I wouldn't say I experienced the oneness as yet, particularly, but it's a pleasure to do it rather than like, oh God, I've got to go and sit in that position. But I also find is that I can feel the releasing. So I suppose I've still got a lot of releasing to do. And I can tell when I'm releasing because of that sort of deep, sudden breath. So I can do that constantly for 20 minutes. And I know that I've cleared a whole load of stuff with no particular story or name or whatever to it. I don't know what the emotions are, but it feels really effective. It's different to any other type of meditation I've done, and it's been interesting to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I started my meditation journey. It was a good technique. Just to go into mind. What I like about it is it's transcendent. It's going beyond the form, beyond illusion, beyond mantra. Okay, you use a mantra, I suppose, but I found after a few minutes the mantra would just fade away. And I would just go into a quite a deep transcendent state.
That's encouraged.
So if it works, you keep doing it, because that awareness that you're accessing is true awareness. Let go of everything else, and it can only enhance your understanding of these spiritual concepts. I certainly it was a catalyst for me as I started meditating to improve my squash, actually, and it did a lot more than that.
Oh, really?
Well, I started. I mean, I don't think you can meditate regularly and not have some kind of awakening. I think you have to start. Something happens with the mind. You start going more within, and naturally then you start getting curious about things that you weren't before. Before I was very, it was the form, it was the achievements, and then suddenly I found myself getting interested in things like the power of now, and I'd never had. I'd read it. I think I'd read it for chapter 1 very soon after it was released in '99. I just read it and was like, oh, whatever, and I glossed over it. And then a bit more meditation a year down the line, and suddenly I was like, oh my God, I read it again and was like, I get it. I get what he's saying. Like, actually, I've missed my whole life. I haven't been present. I'm missing, it's crazy. But I realized that my entire life I'd been future focused. Everything was about the future. What are you going to do? What's coming next? What are you going to achieve in the future? And I'd been on that track for many, many years, and I'd kind of missed, I was missing the point. I got it. Would I have been open to that if I hadn't done transcendental meditation? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I think it definitely opened.
That's what led you to A Course in Miracles, ultimately, was it? You sort of started on a spiritual path from that.
Yeah, just indirectly a spiritual path. And then I remember the phase where I just got really curious. It's like, oh, wow. And so all these kinds of teachings like Taoism and Buddhism, I was like, wow, there's a whole world here. I don't know anything about this stuff. Let me go find out. Like, what do they actually say? And so I go, early days of the internet, go online, like, check it out, search on these things, try and find information. And I was fascinated. It was like, wow, there's these teachings I never knew anything about. And they're saying some interesting stuff about the world and life, and you start connecting the dots a bit, and then I just I was voracious. I just read whatever I could get my hands on. Power of Now and what else? Neil Donald Walsh, the Conversations with God series, and the Urantia book, and Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, which is a 6-book series. And
Wow.
yeah, a lot, like whatever. And I did that for a few years, and then I think I kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, it's all pointing somewhere, but I still don't feel like I've got the whole truth.
Mm.
So I kind of said, okay, I want to know, what's the deal? What's the whole truth?
Mm.
And then, obviously, if you're doing that amount of reading, I'd come across A Course in Miracles. I'd seen quotes, and I'd done a workshop with a guy who'd, I don't know how much he'd studied, but he said, oh, it's the teachings of Jesus. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Because I'd always been fascinated with Jesus. I never really thought that, the Bible did any kind of justice to it. I'd read the New Testament, and in fact, I read the whole Bible. I read the Old Testament, I read the New Testament. It's like, okay, read it. And I never really felt like I knew him. It was like, who is this character? It's kind of there's all these stories about, this person. What was he actually like if you were to meet him? So I was fascinated. So I was like, okay, well, this is true teaching. I'm interested. And I was into manifestation at the time. So it was miracles. Yeah, that sounds cool. I like to know how to do what Jesus did. And so that's what got me into it, and started reading. And I'm not sure how much I understood. I mean, I kept reading. I read the whole text, and I started with a workbook, and I was doing a lesson a day. It's difficult to remember 16 years ago what I understood and what I didn't. I think a lot of it went over my head, honestly. I didn't really get it, because you read the language, and now I read it and I'm going, yeah, actually I do understand it. I think often then I'd read it quite quickly. I mean, I'd read it like a chapter, maybe in half a chapter in a sitting or something. And I think a lot of the time it was just kind of the words. I quite liked the language, but a lot of it was just like you're reading it and it's not really penetrating. So it's taken many years of lots of reading and exploration, and then it starts and translating, and I just kind of work, and then I listen to the audio a lot. Listen to the audio book. I just like thousands of hours of working with something, and suddenly I guess, well, not suddenly. I mean, it's taken 16 years, but you just kind of feel like, okay, I think I know this. I know this book now. I know what it's saying, and like I can interpret it correctly, and there's a depth that just wasn't there, when I started. Well, of course not. I mean, I'd say it's probably going to take you. Don't want to put limitations on anyone, but like if you're a serious student, it's probably going to take you about a decade to really understand it. It's because it's just such a deep, profound teaching. To really get to grips with it and go through a transformation process yourself. Because I had to go and I had to face my ego. I had to get to the point where I was like, okay, it's I get it. I'm facing this ego self that doesn't want to go. I remember saying once to myself, Jesus, Johnny, this stuff's going to kill you. It was that voice in my mind. And then immediately I was like, yeah, but that's, the other part of my mind, the Holy Spirit was like, yeah, but that's the point. About all the theory, you spiritually die and all of that. That's what you're going through. That's the whole point. You have to die to the ego, and it's extremely uncomfortable. It's like it's excruciating at times. That's all I can say. Excruciating, and yet that's what you need. You have to go through that. And then at post that, once I started coming out of that a few years ago, I started really going, okay, now I understand. I'm starting to get what he means, because if you're reading the course with the ego as your guide, of course you're going to misunderstand it and you're going to misinterpret it, because that's what the ego will do. That's what a lot of people do. They're still trying to fit it in to their existing thought system, their egoic thought system, and somehow reconcile their personal self and self-concept with what they're reading. And you can't. In the end, you have to abandon the ego's ideas entirely, and that feels like death. It feels like incredibly stressful when you're going through it. But on the other side of it, of that discomfort, there is peace. there is a calm knowing that, yeah, it's actually, yeah, that is who I am. It's all okay. But it's not all okay when you're going through the process. It seems like terrible.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it took me 10 years to just get to that point where it was like, okay, finally, I've dug deep enough, and now the ego is actually being seriously cracked open and done away with. So, you know, and then post that, I really started to understand what it meant, because I'd had that, you know, pretty traumatic experience of actually coming face to face with this ego and, you know, going, okay, and I understand now what he means. And the, you know, this thought system he's talking about of fear and sin and guilt, it all arises. I mean, it's horrific. It all comes and you go, oh my God, it's just, am I going mad?
Yeah.
It was all there, but you just repressed it. You know, it wasn't brought into conscious awareness before. It was all repressed and suppressed in the subconscious. And so this teaching brings it all up. And yeah, it's not pleasant at all. But you have to go through it. There's no other way.
Yeah.
It's that dark night of the soul, the abyss.
Yeah.
And then you really start to understand it. You go, okay, now I get what he means, because I've had the experience. It's not just a theory. It's like I've actually experienced, you know, what the ego is and how awful it is, and there has been a, you know, letting go of my belief in that. And I really don't believe I'm human anymore. I know I'm in a dream.
Mm.
I can be here for a while, but it's not. I know it's not reality. 16 years ago, I didn't. I was very convinced this was reality. So that's the shift over that time. It's to shift from the one thought system to the other, and it's gradual. For most people, it's quite gradual.
Yeah. But
Not
yours
a
wasn't.
sudden. It's just gradual shifts of perception and changing day by day, continuing to practice, and it just kind of seeps in by osmosis. I just immersed myself in it. I was like listening to it sometimes a couple of hours a day when I was doing the workbook every day, and it was just like ongoing kind of drip feeding it in to the point where it just starts to become second nature. It's like, yeah, I get it, and I don't just believe it, I know it, and it makes complete sense. You know, there isn't anything else that makes sense to me anymore. I realize the ego doesn't make sense, and you stop trying to make sense out of it and reconcile it. You just accept, you know, yeah, this is the only way. Well, you know, it's a long journey for all of us.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had something rather very intense while you were doing the course at the beginning. Is that right? That came from doing the course, as opposed to.
Not really at the beginning, but you know, about 7 years ago, I suppose it was a midlife crisis, really, because I got married. I left South Africa, came here, so I moved countries, got married, had a son, changed careers. So everything I'd done in South Africa, just I had to let that all go. And I just went, what's it all for? You know, what's it all about? And I just feel all at sea, and this is supposed to be, you know, the happy family life, and it wasn't. But so in that crisis, it's a spiritual awakening. Unfortunately, I had the course, and that was when I just went, okay, I know what's going to get me through this. I have to learn this course. I have to go much deeper into it, and it was like, you know, British bulldog determination. I'm going to get my teeth into this, and I'm just going to do this. And I'm going to dig in, and I'm going to work my way through this, because I don't know any other way. Otherwise, what am I going to do? You know, I might just kill myself or something. So fortunately, it was a lifeline. It's like, okay, I know this teaching, and you know, I've really got to learn this. I've really got to learn this and apply this. This is my salvation. It's my way to sanity. It's how I can get through this. So when he says, you know, this is salvation, I know what he means. It's like you need a lifeline. You're drowning in the you know, the deep stormy tempest of the ego, and something, you know, you need something to save you, pull you out of that. and the course did that.
Yeah.
But I had to be really willing. I had to be like, okay, whatever, I have to give my whole faith to this. And that's what he wants. He wants you ultimately to say everything, give everything to this. You start with a little willingness. In the end, it's like give your all to it, because otherwise you've got a divided allegiance. You split your mind.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just hedge my bets. Yes, I believe this, but actually, I've still got the ego there, kind of saying no, but listen to my way. Through the experiences, I realized, well, there's only one way, and that's the Spirit's way.
Yeah.
And, I guess through that dark night of the soul, and I came out the other side, and this course is the product of that journey. It's the product of the hero's journey I took to say, okay, now I can come back and I can actually teach this in a genuine, authentic way, because I've experienced it. I've been through that, and that's the whole point. That's what you're meant to do. You're meant to go through your own journey, come out the other side, and then go, return to the known world and try and help people to undertake the same journey you did.
Yeah.
And the course is what's really done it for me. It's been I've done many things, but for me, that's the anchor. It's like, okay, it's a spiritual path. What I like about it is that it's not, you don't have to go seeking elsewhere. You have the way. It's given to you. It's a very deep, comprehensive way. But it's immensely rich and deep, and it can take you to the deepest level. So you don't need to look anywhere else. You just need to focus on learning that particular path.
Yeah.
So then it starts to become, okay, let me go deeper into this. I don't need to search anymore. I found the answer. I just need to go deeper into to fully understand it.
Yeah.
And then I stopped reading. I don't need to read all this, other stuff. I've got the course, and I understand the references, Buddhism, and cross-reference to Buddhism a lot, or Advaita. I understand that. I've done that reading, but I don't need to go study those texts, because it's all here.
Yes.
1,300 pages of very, very comprehensive information and practices and so on. You don't really have room for another path. I mean, Ken Wapnick, who was, in my view, the greatest course teacher, was, he said, just pick a path. By all means, go look. You can look around the options and see what's available. We all go through that kind of searching phase, and then at a point you've got to commit. Say, okay, if this resonates with me, and for some the course does resonate, for others it doesn't. It's not for everyone. Not everyone resonates with it initially. I mean, maybe because it's very radical.
Yeah.
It's this or that. And for a lot of people, they want a spirituality that's a bit more lenient, that they can bring in some of their illusions into it, and that's acceptable. And they want things like conscious manifestation. They want to know that it's going to make their life here better, and so they look elsewhere, because it's too hard. It's too hardcore. It's like this or that, and they can't accept that. But in the end, they will have to come to that acceptance, whether they do it through the course or another non-dual teaching. In the end, spirituality leads to the same place. It all leads to a non-dual teaching.
Yes.
Whether you get there through the course or Advaita or Sufi mysticism, or at the highest level, Buddhism goes to non-dual.
Right.
They all do. That's all the great teachers and masters understood the same thing. There is only one truth.
Yeah.
And everything else is illusion. So it's just how soon do you want to accept that? Do you want to fiddle around with illusions and try and make them real for longer, or do you just want to do it, get it done with, and learn the truth and accept it? No. Well, I guess I've come to the point where okay, enough. I've suffered enough. It's enough. I don't want to do it again. I don't want another life of all of this stuff. It's it's enough. And I think you have to make that decision. No one can make it for you. It's like, I've had enough. I don't want to be human anymore. I don't want the human story anymore, because I realize it's delusional and it's futile. It's not getting me anywhere. You know,
Yeah.
you have another life, another body, another time, and it's going to be the same story,
Yeah.
variations of the same story.
Yeah.
And that can feel a bit depressing for the ego. You know, you go through times like that. But beyond that is liberation. You know, but actually that's freedom. I don't have to be attached to the story anymore. I can stop trying to make what doesn't work work.
Mm.
That's what we're all trying to do. It doesn't work, we try and make it work, and we try really hard. And but we'll try another way. The ego will give us many ways to try and make the impossible dream work. And fortunately, what I love about Yeshua, he just says to us, it doesn't work. I'm just going to give it to you straight. It doesn't work. And it never will work.
No.
And I know that. You haven't learned that yet. But, you know, it's my job, if I'm your teacher, to teach you that it doesn't work and it never will work. And you have to accept that if you're going to be free. So I have to give you a course where over and over and over again, I tell you in many different ways, it doesn't work. So stop your delusions that it works and just accept the truth that it doesn't work. Then you can let it all go and you can be free and you can join me in heaven, where, you know, which is where you belong. And you can stop fiddling around in an illusion, trying to make what will never work. Now that's, you know, it's quite harsh in some ways because the ego has no room then for any kind of maneuvering, but it's the only thing that's going to free you.
Mm.
Nothing else is going to work. So, you know, in the end you go, do I want freedom or not? Do I want to be totally brutally honest with myself, or do I want to entertain some illusions and you know, still believe that this impossible dream that I've invented is going to somehow one day, I haven't done it yet, but one day I'll find the answer. And it's going to be it's somewhere, you know, and that's, you know, the ego's illusion, isn't it? So you haven't found it yet, but keep looking because you'll find it. One day it'll be in the, you know, in the next business you run, or it'll be in the next special relationship you have, or the next, you know, whatever it offers you. And, you know, yes, it's just, he knows what the ego does, and he just says none of it's going to work. All of your egoic goals will not save you. They won't free you. They're just going to make the dream seemingly real and enslave you into another dream. Come back again, do it all again, seeking for the answer where you never find the answer. You get old, you suffer, you die, and you do it. Oh my God, what's the point? You know, why are we on this continuous cycle of birth and death? Why? And there's no, you know, the answer is it's a delusion. You made a mistake. Anything else, you make it real. You know, there's many spiritualities that try and give it some kind of meaning, purpose, reality. You know, you're here to learn lessons. Well, you know, that given that you've made the mistake, yes, your lesson that you need to learn is to awaken from it. But no one put you here. You know, God didn't put you here to learn lessons. Oh, well, you've got to go there to have a human experience as some kind of test. I mean, it's just nonsense. We put ourselves here through an incredibly stupid idea that we believed in. Because our minds have power, you know, that's now become our reality. We threw away the truth and we decided we wanted an illusion instead. And now we've got stuck in it, and it clearly doesn't work. And so we need a way out. And that's what he's giving us.
So where do you feel you are? I mean, you had your awakening experience last year. And
oh, it was over. Oh, you mean the Vipassana?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was profound. They definitely showed me. It showed me experientially that this is true. You know, I think I'd accepted it, but I hadn't had the experience of it. So there was still something missing. So then it was, okay, I get it. I experienced that even for a moment. It doesn't have to be more than a few moments to experience it. You go, well, I know experientially, yes. I went there to that pure formless awareness. There was no thought, and it was beautiful. Well, you can't really describe it. Just total peace. You know, nothing else to disturb you. And then by contrast, you know, what the ego's invented, it's a travesty. It's like, what, how could you believe that's reality when there's this, you know, pure pristine awareness, pure formless awareness, as I call it, available? Like, how could you possibly believe that? It's just ridiculous.
So do you think you were given a taster of it? You've come back from that, and now it's about more letting go to get back to that feeling while you're here in the illusion.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges continue to come. You know, the ego doesn't give up easily, but you get a glimpse of that, and it's there to show you that, you know, there is this transcendent reality. It's actually there. You've experienced it, and that's the end. You know, that's where you're going. That's the end of all your practicing and all your forgiveness. So in the meantime, challenges keep arising, but you just got to keep letting them go, and not allow the ego to sidetrack you. And so it was almost like after that, you know, this course really started in earnest. Very soon after, about 7 days later, I started the next Art of Letting Go course. And you know, this is, so, you know, here we go. I've been at it now for over a year, and it's like a deep dive immersion of just, okay, let's clean out all of it. You know, you really got to look at all of those false beliefs and just flush them out, clean them out, so that there's nothing obscuring that pristine, pure formless awareness. And so yeah, that's, you know, it's my own journey as well, doing this course, and the, you know, the intensity of it, and like the amount of hours and sessions. It's all, you know, for my healing. I know that. And because the Holy Spirit works, it does, you know, it works as the at-one-ment, it's also other people's healing. It's for everyone. So it's you know, it's just primarily it's for you. It's for your enlightenment. Your journey is for your enlightenment. That's what you're called to do. So, and the side benefits for other people, like, yes, you know, they can benefit as well, and they will. But remember, it's about your awakening. The sole responsibility is to accept the at-one-ment for yourself. So whatever your path is, that's your purpose. Your higher purpose is to awaken, and your path will take you, give you experiences that are necessary to awaken you. And as a corollary to that, yes, they may awaken others too, and that's good. You know, no problem with that. But don't make the mistake of saying, no, well, I'm here to help others, you know, and I'm just here to help others, and I forget about my own awakening. That's not the way. Because too often that's what we do.
Yeah.
And then it becomes another ego defense. Oh no, I'm helping others. But what about yourself? Are you awakening yourself? And I've seen them. People are, no, but I'm, you know, I really want to help others. I'm like, it's not about helping others, it's about you. Primarily. You first, and then others. Not, I want to help others because actually I don't want to look at my own stuff. The unhealed healer. So yeah, that aeroplane.
I'm in awe with everything that you say, Jono. It's been I think it's fascinating to actually hear you just let rip on how it's all been for you, because I guess, like you said, everybody has an experience. And I'm getting to see that everything is about an experience, but I think the way you've just explained everything, I really get it, because I think I too have been doing the same thing. It's relatable, because you do come to a stage of thinking what you're searching for now, what you're looking for. And I've got to say that if it was just recently, I am thinking it is all about perception, you know, how you perceive things, and forgiveness. Although I am thinking to myself, everything's a lie, and what are you doing? You're making it all up. I think it's sending me a bit stir crazy, but I know that when I read your stuff, you've got our back. You're constantly sharing fantastic content. I mean, it's brilliant stuff. I mean, early this morning, watching that, listening to you speak to others about, you know, the lesson that we're doing today, and then really intrigued in this book that they were talking about, and another thing that you'd suggested or something. So it's, but I've got to say, it's like being a bull in a china shop, because I've never had the Course in Miracles before. I was aware of it, but I just kept thinking, what is it? I never delved into it, apart from when I got that book for nothing earlier this year. And then obviously Yad had said she was going to start the Course in Miracles, and that's how it started. But I felt when we moved with yourself, it was becoming too intense, because you were really, but now I understand your passion and everything through it, because like you said, you've had to live it, and this is your journey, and this is where you're bringing people to that kind of awareness. So I really like what you're sharing. I mean, even on Saturday, you know, when you spoke to that guy about how to do his breathing, and you know, and when you share things, it's so much like how I believe there's no need to worry about taping or anything, because if it's the truth, it's the truth. There's nothing matters really. You know, you're not saying nothing out of whatever, but I'm in a bit of awe just watching and listening to, you know, your whole process of what you believed. And I think I was at the same place, like, it must have been at least 20 years ago, that I went to the doctors and thought, well, I've got everything. I'm married, I've got kids and whatever, but I'm not happy, blah, 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 what's going on, you know? And he says, well, who is? And I'm like, oh, well, okay. So if you were in that doctor's surgery then, John, I wouldn't be battling with myself for 20 years, but it is the process again of what, you know. And it's a shame that doctors and that do that, because I didn't want tablets or anything like that. But I started to question a lot of things. But I guess I turned all that within me, and I started to look outside of myself, and I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people, I serve people, but it was going dreadfully wrong, and I didn't know what to do. I was sinking deeper and deeper. And it was like 2019 when I started doing emotional acceptance, but I was very, very unaware of how I felt, because I was really good at denying how I felt, you know, and I still have patterns of it today. But 2019, I did that for a couple of years, and then I still felt that because I felt that my ego was strong anyway, as soon as I'd had enough of some kind of healing or something, it's like the doors were slammed down, and that's it. You just knew, but you knew that you were just avoiding then and trying to escape something else. But yeah, I've got to say, it's been pretty a real up and down. But that is life, isn't it? Like you said. But I like what were you saying about you know, we're not here to have, what was it that you're on about? Oh, we're not here to have, you're
A
not
happy
here,
life.
you what, sorry?
A happy life, or I mean,
Well,
we are on one
You're not
level,
here
but
to be human. You know, your human life is a delusion. So the best you can do is awaken from it, and in the process, yes, you can experience happiness in that awakening.
yeah.
But
But
the
you
point
did say
is
we're
to
not
get
here
out.
just to, you're not here to suffer and whatever. You're here to
You're here to
arise
free your
from that.
mind. You know, your
Yes.
job is to free your mind, to awaken from the dream. And in the process, yes, you can actually experience happiness. Yeah, but that's a byproduct of the awakening process. It's not, you know, like a lot of people want a spirituality that's going to make them a happy human being.
Yeah.
A happy person. I just want to be a happy person, and like my life's going to go well, and everything's going to, you know, and it's an illusion. You can't be a happy person, because the separate self can never be happy for long.
And like you said, the more I kept thinking, you know, but then I can understand when I've read about the Buddha and stuff, that you're creating your own pain and suffering, because then you started searching for that happiness outside of yourself instead of turning within. Whereas with the Course in Miracles and with what you're sharing, it is an inside job, you know. And I guess it's that whole, like the last couple of days, it's all been about fear, isn't it? And how fear does mask it all. But again, this morning when you just said It's just an idea. It's just a thought. But you have to keep saying that to yourself, because it's amazing how you just fall asleep with it or whatever. And you wake up and you forget about it. You don't forget about it, but it's so easy to follow the egoic way because that's what we're used to. That's what we.
Yeah. It's a very familiar thought system, which we've believed in to the point where that seems to be the only way, and the world we invented as a result of it seems to be the only way, and that's what the ego wants you to believe. So this teaching runs counter to it. It's completely the opposite. It's a reversal of thinking, complete reversal of thinking. So many of the egoic concepts, they all have to be undone. We've come across a number of them. Boundaries, well, that's got to go. There are no boundaries in pure formless awareness. Grounding, well, that's got to go. There's no grounding in pure formless awareness. You just are in it. So all of those, have to be undone in your mind.
But you're right when you talk about that kind, because I can remember doing grounding. I can remember doing 12-step programs to sisterhood, and I think, gosh, I was only thinking today how much money I've plowed into these these concepts, these ideas, and it's like, gosh, it seems really crazy now, because again, you're being shown a way to bypass or not actually. I just kept thinking I'm deep, or some people would work with me and just say, just be happy, and I'm thinking, how can I be happy when that fucking makes sense to me? You're thinking to yourself, what you really start, and it's just weird, because the more I was hearing things or doing things, and it'd be okay for a day or two or whatever you like, but now I'm getting it more and more, especially now. I mean, I've had a couple of sessions with you, to be fair, privately with the beliefs, and they were real, but they were definitely hardcore beliefs that I'd really had, because I think I kind of tended to settle down slightly. I'm going to be wary of what I'm saying, just in case tonight I don't sleep, because you never know. But no, I feel really on, what you're saying, it really does, I can't believe I've only looked at it in January this year, and I think about it today, and it's like, wow, I really don't think, if I'd done what I'd done right at the beginning and just focused on the bold, but I don't know where I'd be, because I wouldn't have looked into it as deeply as how you've
yeah, well, I mean, you just know there's no way you could have. I mean, it's taken 16 years
yeah
16 years and thousands of hours of exploration to get to this point in your first year. I mean, honestly, you don't really understand it. It's just
I don't.
It all goes over your head. And I was the same. It's like you don't really get it, because you're coming from the ego, trying to understand this teaching that's telling you the ego is not real, transcending it, and it's like your thought system can't adjust that quickly. So this is a process. You just got to be patient with it and keep working, to clean it out. But I think in a year, if you do it like the Art of Letting Go program, and you do it in that guided way, it's going to accelerate your journey. Maybe it doesn't have to take 10 years. Maybe it can be 5 years. I don't know. I think everyone's individual. Everyone's got their individual journeys anyway. We're all one, but we've all got our individual journey back to oneness. So it's going to be different for everyone, but it does take time. You just cannot.
Well, it's good to notice that I'm accepting it more rather than pulling against it. I did think I was pulling against everything earlier, but I think I'm more accepting now and just letting it be what it is. And sometimes you've got to have that and let the challenges come, but know that like with the breath breaks and whatever, that you can do this now. So I do feel a hell of a lot stronger. I mean, a lot of people say you're a strong person, but I don't think so, because I wasn't really confronting what was happening within. But now it seems that I can confront what's coming up.
Because you got the tools to face the ego.
Yeah.
So you can go, okay, I can go where before I was scared. Now I
Yeah.
can take it on, and I can use these tools like the breath breaks and the meditations to help me to let it go. And I know I don't have to be scared of it.
So yesterday was
Right.
really good. The lesson that of not fearing what's within, because I think that was it. I thought, bloody hell, yesterday was one of those things that, oh my gosh, I always have done.
Mm,
Isn't that weird?
mm,
Until you see it in that way.
mm, mm. That's why it gives us these different lessons.
Yeah.
So this one's about looking within, and you go, oh, okay, well that that really works for you. That pushes the button.
And then I think it was the movie that we've seen this week, which was really good.
Yeah, we can talk
The
about
Fear
that
of
one if you
Living.
want.
And that was true for me,
Mm,
because I too was waiting for what's going to happen next, because all of a sudden I was being reminded of how controlled I'd lived for 18 years of my life as a youngster, and what a controlled environment I was in. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, now I'm getting to understand more. I'm not living. I've not been living because I've been afraid for so long, because I don't know what's going to happen next. But it weren't until I seen the movie that I realised that that's been kicking off as well. So, and then obviously Friday was when I did stream in, because I was late. I came in, I didn't realise you were doing a night one, and I caught the boundaries with Sally, and I thought, I've never had boundaries. I'm really shit at boundaries, but you were confirming a lot. So I think at the minute for me, every lesson that's coming up or everything that I'm watching that you're sending is just, it's just,
it's hitting.
yeah. So I'm noticing whether it's, I mean, I'm really intrigued in the disappearance of the universe. I went out to the libraries this morning. I couldn't get it there, and I went to a couple of bookshops. They couldn't get it, so I thought, oh, I'll have to speak to Jono. Where'd you get that book?
Just order it online.
Yeah,
just order it online. Disappearance of the Universe, definitely worth reading.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned another one, Robert Holden's talk.
Yeah. What was it? Carpenter, somebody Carpenter as well with him, but I couldn't find it.
He and a guy called Tom Carpenter, who's Course in Miracles teacher from the US, and they had a really interesting dialogue, about an hour and a half on it, and just really, it's just quite moving.
I mean, the books that you spoke about, I mean, The Power of the Now, I've got that, and I've got his other, is it The Earth or something? But I think, like you said, it's not until you read it again you get a different take on it. I think I've got some of Rob Holden's books, but I can't.
There's a talk with Tom Carpenter, which I'll try and find for you online. It was available free. It's on some site, but I'll have to try and dig out the URL. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube or not. You can have a quick look if you like, but definitely worth watching. So there's a lot of Tom Carpenter was old. I mean, he'd been studying a course for 40 years or something, and there was a sense of just such wisdom and really gentle forgiveness coming through. Tom Carpenter and Robert Holden. Let's see if it comes up. So what did you think about time? Any comments on that? A dialogue on forgiveness. Excerpt, right? An excerpt of a conversation. How we make our own world. 621. Yeah. So there's little flashes, little excerpts, but not the whole thing.
All right.
On YouTube, it was somewhere else. It was available. I'll have to see if I can find it for you. But you can watch a little bit of the excerpt. I'll just send it to you. There's a 5-minute clip for you on it. Where are we? Susie. So yeah, any thoughts on the about time? Maybe did you all watch it?
I
Not
enjoyed
really.
it.
Hmm?
Didn't watch it this time. I've seen it before. It's very good. It'd be interesting to watch it again from
Hmm.
perspective of the course.
Yeah, some good time concepts, and in the end, the conclusion he comes to is just being present now, be here now, and just be happy now, live an extraordinary ordinary life. And he was trying to make it all work and make it perfect, and he realized that right here right now, I think didn't do much time travel. And he was like, I don't really need it anymore, because it taught me just to be here now. So it doesn't matter how many goes I had at it, it never quite worked out anyway. Could like go back and revisit the experiences over and over, and yet still something was missing. So trying to fix and control life, as opposed to surrender to it and be in the flow. And I like that phrase, extraordinary ordinary life. It's a great one. So it's not saying you have to go and do anything extraordinary on the level of form, like win Wimbledon or climb Mount Everest or these build $1 billion business. It's just live your life, but live it in a state of flow. Be in the now. Be in loving awareness. And that's he was seeking for love. His whole journey was looking for love, looking for special love. And in the end, through the journey, found a deeper love, found divine love in the now. So it's a hero's journey in there as well. Any other thoughts or questions or comments about that? Okay, so let's have a look at our teaching for today, shall we? So let's get into where are we? Here we go. It's amazing. Okay. So there you are. Who wants to read the quote?
I will.
Yeah.
Each of us must confront our own fears, must come face to face with them. How we handle our fears will determine where we go with the rest of our lives. To experience adventure or to be limited by the fear of it.
Yeah, nice quote. Really saying, it's very similar to yesterday. He's building on themes. So we must go within and we must face our fears, because those are the blocks to awareness of love's presence. Okay, you want to read the first paragraph?
Today's inspirational quote by American writer. Oops, yeah, lost the picture. Hang on. When I don't use the cursor for a while, it cuts off. Today's inspirational quote by American writer Judy Blume follows logistically from yesterday's one about overcoming your fear of within. It's only, hey?
You said logistically. You got logistics for Christmas on the mind, perhaps.
I've been talking to my ex-husband that does logistics. I think it's on my mind. Yeah. Overcoming your fear of looking within, because it's only fear that's going on to stop you from undertaking your hero's journey of exploration into the unknown territory of who you really are, and living your life as a daring adventure into this domain of fearless, loving awareness. As Helen Keller, who was both blind and deaf from early childhood, reminds us in this inspiring quote, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Security does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than exposure. Yeah, that was an interesting quote. So when it says life is either a daring adventure or nothing, what does that exactly mean?
Well, you can interpret it in many ways, but for me, it's go live your life to the full, live your life as a daring adventure without fear, or it's nothing. There's nothing there. You're just existing.
Yeah.
So I think she understood. It's like you go for it entirely or not at all. Very similar to the Course's teachings. You're going to live your life in the spirit, which is life, or it's nothing. You're living in a nothing existence, trying to make something out of nothing, and feeling empty as a result. And fear is what keeps you bound to nothingness, various forms of nothingness, because you're scared of losing nothing. But if it's nothing, how can you be scared of losing it?
Yeah, I used to find that my life got smaller and smaller because I used to want to live in the comfort zone without any fear. And I noticed a couple of times where my life got smaller because of that. And then I had to kind of push it out and do some more kind of life-stretching things to expand it again. But that was a while ago.
Avoiding danger. And so this is what a lot of people dedicate their lives to. I want to be safe. Safety and security are your primary goals in life. Then how can life be a daring adventure? It becomes all about, well, what's going to make me safe? What's going to keep me secure? What's going to stop me from avoid pain and seek pleasure? That's the mantra of the ego. But what kind of a life is that? Is that of any value to you or anyone else, really? So again, she's pointing us, the daring adventure is not necessarily going out and conquering the world and going exploring to different places. And some people have done that. But for most people, it's the daring adventure of discovering yourself, of the self-discovery, the hero's journey. So all these quotes point us to the same truth, that life is meant to be your spiritual journey of awakening to who you are. That's the adventure of your life, and anything else is nothing. You're just living in a false existence, trying to justify it and make it important and real, but it's not. And that's for me what she's saying. Choose, daring adventure, choose fearless love, and the daring adventure into your true self that it brings, or you choose nothing. What the ego's alternative is really nothing. It's nothing that you seem to value and make into something, but it can never satisfy you. And she's right. In this world, security doesn't exist. In nature, what's secure about any of it? Everything's changing all the time. Nothing remains the same for even an instant. And in the end, every living sentient being is guaranteed to die. Well, there's no security there. So, Steve Jobs said it another way. He said in his talk that I gave you a few weeks ago, he said, "You're already naked. You have nothing to lose." Everyone's going to die one day. His final lesson was on death. Remember, he said, "You're already naked. You're already going to die. It's a done deal. You are going to die. One day you'll be right. If you live every day as if it's going to be your last, one day you'll surely be right." There was a quote that stuck with him when he was 17. So you're going to die. You're naked already. In other words, there's no security here. So go for it. Why? What are you protecting? For what reason? Same message as Helen Keller. So anyone who's awakened to some extent, they say the same thing. Just go for it because you've got nothing to lose. You're going to die anyway. So what are you scared about? Just live your life fearlessly while you're here, because well, the worst that can happen is you're going to die, but you're going to die anyway. So whether you die now or in 20 or 30 years, does it really matter in the grand scheme of things? It doesn't. So what are you defending? What are you protecting? You're already naked, as he says, so go for it. And so in that, interesting that that was a quote that really inspired him to do what he did. So that was one of the the primary quotes that every day he'd think, would I, if this was my last day on the planet, would I want to be doing what I'm doing now? And that kept him focused on present moment, being in the now, enjoying the moment. If he's not enjoying the moment, then what's the point?
Mm.
And so then he would make changes. So that the knowledge of death, certain death, can actually help you to have a very present and happy and flowing life. If you allow it to. Your death is certain, so you're already naked. So what are you defending? Why be fearful? Okay, so next one. Susie, do you want to read, or Jackie read the next paragraph?
Fear is what keeps us from listening to our inner voice or Holy Spirit, which is the remembrance of oneness in our own minds that wants to guide us to live in an expansive state of mind beyond all fear.
Yeah.
Fear of what, you may well ask? On the surface level, you may think you fear you'll fail and be judged by other people for your failure, or perhaps you fear losing what you currently have in your life: money, possessions, status, special relationships, health, and of course, ultimately, your human life.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
It is true, isn't it? You do fear that you'll fail and be judged by others.
Yeah, one thinks of old Harry Kane having missed that penalty. But, for him, it's a great spiritual lesson, because he's been there, he's done it, and you go, okay, well, I've done it. There's nothing to fear anymore. Yeah, I've failed, in the eyes of everyone, and okay, I can let it go.
But the difference with this team was that there was a bit of, there's just something about Southgate, because he's nurtured them in a different way to what football normally is, isn't it? They haven't got that kind of, I know what you're saying. It's just that I think he's done a really good job this time round as a manager, because with footballers you don't normally see that, and I think that's what made it a bit more. Yeah, he might be giving himself a hard time for missing the penalty, but they can come home head held high because they're all in a different space.
Yeah, there was a sense of unity and love in that. So,
yes, yeah.
That even though they didn't win, on the level of form, that's a failure. There was a success. There was a unity. There was a connection. If they build on that, maybe in time they'll be successful. Who knows? Maybe it's not about the success. It's about the unity. Learning that unity is strength, and that all the players are learning. Able to learn that through the football. So it's not always about the outcome. So it isn't about the outcome. It's about the process. Okay, so next one, but what you really fear. Anyone there? Sally or Jackie, you want to read?
What you really fear underneath the surface level of fear is that you'll lose your special identity, otherwise known as your ego. Therefore, your imagined existence as a separate ego self is threatened by any attempt to overcome your fear and live a more inspired life, in which you're open to the flow of life and willing to follow its guidance without resistance, because fear is just a resistance to this flow.
So that's what we're really scared of. It's ceasing to exist as a separate self. And that's what keeps us in prison. The prison of our own minds, of that separate self, because we're terrified to let go, because who would we be then? If we let go, we won't have an identity. And if we think that identity is our life, then we're going to fear that, you know, any letting go is going to actually kill us. The ego fears its death. But because it's untrue, letting go is actually the key to eternal life. The idea of fear being resistance to the flow, does that resonate?
Yeah.
Flow of life.
Yeah, that's how I always visualize it. Yeah.
The resistance to the flow, it's not following guidance, getting stuck. A very kind of contracted mental and emotional experience. Is what fear is.
I see it as like a channel of energy flowing through, and the further down the emotional scale you are, the more blocked you become and less able to follow the guidance, the more separated you become.
Yeah, I mean, the sort of flow river analogy is quite good. Imagine you dam a river up, you know, literally, and that could be DAMN. You dam it up. You know, so you condemn, you judge, you stop the flow. Well, now there's no flow because it's coming in, but it's all building up, and there's no through flow, and so the energy gets stuck because it wants to flow down to the ocean. So you can't control it. You just have to flow with it. Okay, let it flow through, and so it must extend out of me. The key thing, this is why he's teaching us always to give as you receive, because as you give love, you allow the flow to come in. It comes in, and then you extend it out, and you become this. It's like this river of loving awareness, which is the essence of life, flowing through you. As you give it, so you receive it. If you stop the extending of it, then you also block the incoming, the receiving of it. That's how it works. You know? So that's why he emphasizes over and over. It's one of the primary lessons in the course. As you give, you receive. Because you give, you unblock yourself. You allow the flow to come in. And it's flowing through you. And if you if spirit's just flowing through you, you come to know that it's you. It must be you. This is flowing through you all the time. And it's an inexhaustible supply of energy. Not actually energy, of awareness, we'll call it. It's inexhaustible, it's infinite. It comes and it just keeps coming. You know, there's no limit to it. So in other words, you can keep giving and giving and know that it's always there. You know, you can never lose out. Okay, so happy with that. Next one, this is the true adventure. So Jackie, if you can read that.
The true adventure today's quote refers to undertaking the hero's journey of changing your mind about yourself and seeing everything with fresh eyes, rather than traveling anywhere or going on an adventure in this world. Though these may well happen, they're helpful in your spiritual journey, which is your hero's journey of overcoming all fear and awakening to your fearless, loving self that you've chosen to undertake by doing this Art of Letting Go program.
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Hero's journey. It's not about going anywhere, it's about the inner journey.
Yeah.
That's the real call to adventure. No, we don't want that. We want have a diagram here. We want hero's journey. For some reason it's decided to give me well, what Google's doing. I don't want that. Here's journey diagram, maybe that'll work. So, you know, the adventure that Helen Keller is talking about, and the first quote, the life of adventure is this journey, the journey of exploring who you really are, challenging the ego, going out of the known world into the unknown world, being willing to face the challenges and the temptations, the fears that come up on the journey. You know, that's what you've got to go within, face, and overcome. To go through the dark nights of the soul, the abyss, death and rebirth, which, you know, feels like death, but it's not. It's actually being reborn into who you really are. It's the only way you're going to truly transform, atone, become at one with your source and others, and then return with the gifts that you've got through the journey, which is this knowledge of who you are, know thyself. To then return and help others to listen to their call to adventure. Guide them on the journey. You might then be a mentor or a helper to someone else. So that's the call to adventure. That's what we all on, and it's you know, everyone's journey is going to look a little different in form, because you have your own life circumstances, and you're going to have your own challenges and temptations. But in the end, it's the same archetype. It's a pattern that everyone shares.
What's the guardian up by the threshold?
Threshold guardians.
Oh, okay.
So those are people usually, or circumstances, I guess, also play a part, that seem to stop you from taking the journey.
Oh, okay.
So there's always going to be naysayers, and oh no, you don't want to do that. No, stay in the known world, stay in your comfort zone, don't go out of that, because that's risky. You know, and you don't want to risk. You want to stay safe and secure. That's fear that keeps you in the known world. The threshold guardians, or the agents, stop you. And the Matrix, you know, they were the agents, literally, of the Matrix, who then wanted to stop Neo from awakening. And they were trying to, you know, prevent him taking his whole journey. And you had to overcome them, ignore their advice, and be willing to go into the unknown. Let go of his known world, being a computer programmer, and, you know, working for the big company and all of that. You have to be willing to let that all go. From someone else. Well, any other questions about this? Fairly straightforward pattern, but I mean, it's so profound, you know, because this is the journey of our lives. It describes an archetypal pattern that seems to be universal. That's why Joseph Campbell called it the monomyth. It's the one myth behind all the other myths. It's this hero's journey of awakening that is the story of a human life, of a truly, you know, purposeful, useful human life will be lived according to this pattern. So, you know, there you have the pattern, you have the archetype. Well, are you going to accept it or not? go into the unknown or stay stuck in the known world. Okay, so I think that's our little our teaching done. So shall we have a look at the lesson?
Could I just have a look at that last paragraph again? There was something that I wrote down.
Yeah. Yeah. Just jump in there.
Where was that?
You have it in your emails or in your
Okay.
Telegram. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
So the hero's journey is overcoming all fear and awakening to your fearless, loving self. You know, that's the universal journey we're all on.
Yeah.
And you know, if you're on this path of the Course in Miracles and the Art of Letting Go, then that's how it's playing out for you. By your own choice. You know, you have to choose consciously to do this. No one can force you. Okay, so let us have a look at lesson for today. Have we got time to do the second coming?
Not for me.
Our last showed it. Yeah. Let's do the lesson then. So who wants to read? Read the original and then the alternative, and original of paragraph 1 and then the alternative.
In fearlessness and love,
Anyone who wants to go.
In fearlessness and love, I spend today. Alternatively, I am fearless and loving today.
Yeah, so the one that's just a bit more direct. I am that. You know, I am this fearless, loving presence, loving awareness. Rather than I'm in fearlessness and love. They're qualities. This is claiming those as your own. I am that. Hence the translation. Okay, I'm going to read paragraph.
Read it. This day, my Father, would I spend with you, as you have chosen all my days should be. And what I will experience is not of time at all. The joy that comes to me is not of days nor hours, for it comes from heaven to your Son. This day will be your sweet reminder to remember you, your gracious calling to your Holy Son, the sign your grace has come to me, and that it is your will I be set free today. Alternatively, this day, my source, I choose to spend with you, as you have chosen all my days should be, and what I will experience is not of time at all. The joy that comes to me is not of days nor hours, for it comes from the state of pure formless awareness to your extension. This day will be your sweet reminder to remember you, your gracious calling to your wholly aware extension, the sign your grace has come to me, and that in your awareness I am set free today.
Okay, thoughts on that?
I'm interesting bit, and what I would experience is not of time at all. Well, we've had a few conversations here about time. Found something, and I've had contrasting experiences. I feel like the day's flown and I've actually achieved very little, not least because it's taking me like 2 hours to get a washing machine repair. Sally, in contrast, has organised her repairs very fast. So there's something going on with time. And perhaps it's about, being connected with spirit, being in the right place, experiencing time differently.
There is no time, and there's not of time at all. The eternity means no time, timeless state. So time means there's no perception of change. Time and change go hand in hand. I perceive time because things change in time, don't they? So events and circumstances and things change, and then I say, oh well, you know, that's now changed, so then I measure time. But all of it's illusory. All the change is illusory. It's all part of the construct of the mind to convince you that time is real when it's not. There's actually only ever pure formless awareness of perfect love, which is eternal. That's always the case. It's never changed. It never can change. So if nothing changes, there can be no time. Do you see that? Time and change go hand in hand. What's eternal cannot change, otherwise it wouldn't be eternal. So, and they don't reconcile. You can't reconcile time with eternity. It's another way of saying the same thing. You can't reconcile truth with illusions. Okay, anything else in that paragraph struck you?
Just what you just said struck me is very profound. But I've got nothing to say about it. It's like, wow.
Sorry, you just faded off there, something. Say that again.
I don't know about the paragraph, but what you just said about eternity being no time, and the way you phrased it and you switched it around a few times, that's quite, you know, that's just so profound. No comment about it, but it's like, wow, I've never heard it like you just said it.
Yeah. Okay. There is no time. So it's not forever in time. Sometimes he uses the forever and forever. I tend to translate it as eternally rather than forever and ever, because it's not going to go on forever and ever in time.
Yeah, I think that's probably how I thought eternity was. I hadn't really sussed that out. I just thought it was limitless and it kept going. But I guess in my mind, I was thinking it was time-based. Yeah, I don't know why I ever thought that, but
well, you think that because that's your experience. You know, the ego convinced you that time is real, and so we can't really conceive of just a state of pure formless awareness that's always there and never changes, because the ego has convinced us that change is, you know, is true and real, and our experience in time is that things are always changing. So we can't really understand eternity from a time-based self-concept. Not possible. You're going to misinterpret it.
But so it feels quite black and white what you're saying, but I feel like I experience it in a kind of grey area where, like today, I felt like I had so much time, but areas of it were timeless. So I'd be doing something and time didn't matter. It wasn't part of the deal. So I don't know if it's a case of you just slipping in and out of it, I suppose, but yeah, it doesn't feel so black and white to me. It doesn't feel like there's time or there's no time, and sometimes I'm in time and sometimes I'm not. It feels like sometimes I'm half there and half in it and half out of it, and I don't know. Do you know what I mean? There's sometimes it feels like I notice that I've got an awful lot done in a very short time. The time doesn't seem to have passed. It seems quite magical. And then other times I stop and look at the clock and like the time doesn't move. It doesn't change. It feels like this doesn't feel black and white to me. It just feels like it's all different shades of where I am and how I'm perceiving it and what I'm noticing. If I notice
perception, what you're describing here is how you perceive it.
Yeah.
Which is part of the illusion, right? So in perception, perception isn't knowledge. It's not ultimate reality. So in perception, you vacillate and you change and there's shifts. And eternity or timelessness can be perceived sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes you're not as rooted in that, so you haven't experienced more of time. That's, you're still in the perceptual domain. Ultimately, it's pointing us to something that's completely beyond time. There won't be any perception anymore. So you won't have to interpret anymore. It'll just be an experience of direct, pure formless awareness of perfect love that's always there.
But sometimes when I'm doing something and I'm really focused on doing it and I'm aware I'm doing, now am I aware am I doing? I don't know. I was just clearing out the kitchen drawer today, one of those exciting jobs, and it felt timeless. It felt very in flow, connected, but I wasn't thinking about it. I wasn't really, I was vaguely observing myself doing it. I don't know. It's just really interesting, isn't it? Noticing the different states.
So that's, that experience is flow. The flow state is when you're in a timeless state of mind, but you're still able to operate in time. Things are happening, you're doing things, but there's no sense of really time passing, no sense of being time bound. There's no sense of past and future.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, all right. Call it the flow state. Yeah, that's
good
to know what to call it.
Thinking about time when you're in that state. There's no like, oh, well, what do I have to do next? I've got this and this and this. What do I have to do next? It's just, I'm just being totally present. I'm cleaning the kitchen drawer.
Yeah.
And it feels very relaxing. You're in the now. There's only now. Time is purely perceptual. So time happens when you start focusing on the change in things and you start focusing on outcome, saying, well, this needs to happen by such and such a time. And, I've got all these things to do in time. Then you're out of flow and you're out of the timeless state, out of eternal state of mind. And you're back in time. And because it's just perceptual.
So that's interesting. So when you're noticing time, you're out of flow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Observe that, especially, future time. And you go, oh, okay, so, I've got half an hour to do this. Or look at, take an example of the football on the weekend. Shall I tell you what did Harry Kane's head in? It was the time. Because he knew the first penalty he took, the pressure wasn't as great because they had more time. If he'd missed, it would have been like, okay, well, we've still got half the game to go. But when there's 8 minutes to go in your mind, he's like, okay, it's like I have to do this because we've got no time to recover if I don't. And I think that put the extra pressure on, which made him choke. So time came into it. If he'd been completely in the moment, it was like, right, I'm just kicking a ball into a net. There's no consideration of time and outcome and any of that. Then he would have been in flow and the outcome would have been different. Can't guarantee he would have done the penalty, but he would have kicked a better penalty because time wouldn't have come in and sabotaged it. And then you see our time, now that the time came in, that now creates the opportunity for the dysfunction. Now things don't go well, and now he's got a potentially a huge forgiveness opportunity to let all that go and forgive himself and release himself to the eternal state of mind, which he got blocked from that. So you start to observe, when people lose the timeless dimension, they lose the flow, and then things don't go very well on the level of form. That's when things go wrong as we perceive them.
Very interesting.
Is why this is so important. For everyone to master, because you want a happy flowing life. You don't want the dysfunction and so stop going into time, stay rooted in timelessness. I'm just doing this now. That's what I'm doing, and that's all I'm doing. It has to be 100% focus, because if you go, oh, but what about this and this and this that I've got to do, then you're out of the now, and you've made time real. And you see how tempting it is to do that. Well, this time of year, there's lots to do and the preparations to get, and so a lot of people are like walking to-do lists. Well, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this, and there's so much to do, and I'm not getting it all done, and da 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 da. And they're out of the now, and they're out of it. The eternal, they've lost connection with the eternal, and now the ego's in charge. Which is why it does, things like the power of now, just reminding yourself to come back to the now is so powerful, because when you're in the now, you're in the eternal state of mind. You're connecting with your source. Pure formless awareness must be there, and the ego it fades away and is undone. So it's another it's another way of undoing it, just being rooted in the in the present moment.
I'm laughing because the dog's staring at me, which is taking me out of flow, because she's like saying it's time for me to go out. It's time for me to go for a walk. Totally.
And you notice what that does to your inner state. It's interesting.
Totally. It's just like those
Takes
eyes
you out of just being
me.
present and going, oh, but I've got to do this, and then you feel kind of a bit of an anxiety arising, and that anxiety is then the essence of fear. You see how it's all bound together: fear and time and eternity and fearlessness go. These go hand in hand, and it's perceptual. So when you say you go in and out of it, it's because it's because your perception varies. Perception is always variable. So you can be a little bit more in timelessness, and that feels good. And then you jump out of it and your dog gives you a look, and then, and then bound up in that is a special relationship and, all of that. And then that all pulls you back into a time-bound, more of a time-bound state. There's still an awareness of the eternal because you're able to reflect on it. But, so while we're learning the lessons, yes, it's shades of gray. You never, unless you go fully into revelatory experience, there's always going to be some aspect of time. But you want to be making it like really much more timeless and in the now than time bound. Much more like 70, 80, 90% rooted in timelessness, in the eternal now moment. So that ultimately you learn it. Okay, eventually, if I keep doing this, I get into the state of mind where there is only now, and I fully accept that and I embrace it. And I just, going into past or future, I can't do it anymore because I no longer believe in those constructs of the mind. So pure formless awareness and timelessness go together. It's logical. They must do, because pure formless awareness is eternal. So therefore it's timeless. It's always there. And only when you're in the now, not thinking about the past or the future, then can you access it. Which is why the now is a central teaching in any authentic spiritual teaching. That's absolutely one of the foundations. Okay, so any other thoughts on paragraph 1?
No.
Number 2.
We spend this day together, you and I, and all the world joins with us in our song of thankfulness and joy to him who gave salvation to us, who set us free. We are restored to peace and holiness. There is no room in us for fear today, for we have welcomed love into our hearts. Alternatively, we spend this day together, you and I, and everyone joins with us in our song of thankfulness and joy to the loving awareness that awakened us and set us free. We are restored to pure formless awareness and the peace it brings. There is no room in us for fear today, for we have welcomed love into our hearts.
So do you see how pure formless awareness, loving awareness, and timelessness, the eternal, the now, they're bound up. They're one and the same. You can only have that pure formless awareness in the now. As soon as you're thinking about the past and the future, your awareness is no longer pure and formless. You're thinking about illusions. And pure formless awareness and peace go hand in hand. So the now, pure formless awareness, peace, these are all pointers to the same state of mind, the same state of awareness, which is completely transcendent of fear and time and perception and any of these things the ego's invented. Okay, so any comments, questions, thoughts on that? I'm going to summarize that for us, Sammy.
I just had to take the dog out. Should I do
Right.
that?
Okay. When he says we spend this day together, you and I, he's talking as you know, Yeshua. You and I, so we are one.
Oh, okay.
We spend this day together, you and I. So there's a sense of, you know, connecting with him.
Yes.
And then everyone joins with us in our song of thankfulness and joy. The loving awareness that awakened us and set us free.
Yeah. So in that place of stillness where you're connected with everyone else as well, instead of being in separation when you're in the ego mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So loving awareness and timelessness, the eternal now moment, peace. It's all one and the same, really. These are just pointers to the same awareness, to the same thing, which is all we're here to realize. You know, all these lessons, all the different language, just points to the same singular awareness. You can call God or pure formless awareness or perfect love, which is your whole awareness. That's all you really are. And that's all we came to learn. That we are this awareness. Okay. And well, I like the thankfulness and joy. So in one paragraph, what has he got in here? You know, we're together, you and I, so there's a unity. Everyone joins with us, so universal unity. Song of thankfulness and joy, so gratitude and joy, which are very, very powerful energy states. To the loving awareness, and that's translated. You gave salvation to us, so the loving awareness that awakened us. So you have awakening in there, you have loving awareness, you have loving kindness, you have freedom. And these are all pointers to the same state of mind, which anyone can actually attain. Not just for the special gifted spiritual geniuses, it's there for everyone if you know how to. This requires a bit of mental discipline to train your mind to think in certain ways and not think in certain ways, to allow this experience to arise. Which is why we do the mind training. Speaking of which, so would you like to do a meditation now?
Minutes.
Susie? Up for a meditation for 15 or 20 minutes? Yeah? Are you going? Are you staying? You gotta go.
She's got to go and get her son.
Okay. All right, she's put them in the chat. Okay. No problem. All right, thanks for joining. We'll see you soon. So yeah, let's do a med, shall we? So just get yourself comfortable. Back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes and start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. And subtle flow of air into the nostrils. Feel this warm wave of energy rising up into your heart center. Breathe into your heart center. You can put one hand on your heart. Connect with your heart space. And draw the energy all the way up into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. It's a maximal inhale breath. So you're inhaling love, truth, peace, happiness. Freedom. It's all there. Breathe it into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, and every part of your mind, and every fiber of your being. If you notice any contradictory energy, anything that seems to deny this feeling, thoughts, emotions, body sensations, just observe it in a very calm, detached way. Breathe into it. So with the breath, you bring in spacious awareness. Breath is a symbol of the spacious awareness, the very life essence of presence. And it tends to dissipate any contracted, limited thoughts. So breathe in and just observe how that happens. You like to, you can visualize a light. So remind yourself of today's key idea, that in fearlessness and love I spend today. Or if you prefer the alternative, I am fearless and loving today. Breathe in this fearless, loving energy, this presence in your mind. I'm fearless and loving today from you. Just be willing to exhale and just let go of any dark thoughts, illusions. Blow it all away with the breeze of your breath like a dark cloud. It's leaving you, it's going, gone. So nothingness it really is. Pull the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. And it all goes sinking inwards to a deep peace and stillness beyond all illusions. So now in the still, calm, quiet, empty state, you're going to listen to these words from lesson 310. Just quietly and let understanding just arise naturally. These ideas drop into your mind like pebbles in a pond. A very still, calm, windless day. So listen to these words from Yeshua, our master teacher, as you can just watch your breath, breathing in and out through the nose, observing the subtle sensations of the breath flowing into the nostrils and then out of the nostrils. Breathing in and breathing out. Let these words drop in like pebbles in a pond. Very still, calm, windless day. Permeating into your deeper awareness. So this day, says Yeshua, my Father or my source, would I spend with you, or I choose to spend with you, as you've chosen all my days should be. So we choose to unite our minds with source. And what I will experience is not of time at all. Joy that comes to me is not of days nor hours. It comes from heaven, which is the state of pure formless awareness, to your sun or extension. This day will be a sweet reminder to remember you, your gracious calling to your holy aware extension. Sweet reminder, so breathe the sweet reminder in. So every pore, every cell, every muscle, your body, every part of your mind is sweetly reminded of the truth of your loving awareness. And sign your graces come to me, and that in your awareness I am set free today. Say that. This day will be a sweet reminder to remember you, your gracious calling to me, your holy aware extension. Sign your graces come to me, and that in your awareness I am set free today, set free from all my misconceptions about time, from all fear, all lacks of love, pain, suffering in any form. And so, Asha says, we spend this day together, you and I. And everyone joins with us in our song of thankfulness and joy to Him, or the loving awareness that gave salvation to us, that awakened us, set us free. We are restored to pure formless awareness. And the peace it brings. There's no room in us for fear today, for we have welcomed love into our hearts. So just do this now. Breathe in, close your eyes as they opened, and just breathe this loving awareness into your heart center. So there's nowhere else to go, and there's nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Breathe, relax, be still, and are restored to pure formless awareness and the peace it brings. There's no room in us for fear today, for we've welcomed love into our hearts. So welcome it into your heart, breathe it in. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe in and out through your nostrils. Observe the subtle sensations of the breath in the nose, touch of the breath in the nostrils, and on the area just below your nose, between your nose and your upper lip. And just sinking into this deep peace, allowing it to overwhelm you, surrender to it completely. The next couple of minutes of deep silence. When thoughts come up that seem to disturb your deep peace, just let them go. Reminding yourself, I am fearless and loving today. I'm in fearless, loving awareness. It's have no place in my mind. Blow them away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness they really are. And just rest for another minute of deep silence in this deep, undisturbable, eternal peace. Timeless now moment. Just extending for the next minute, deep silence. And so just gently coming back, this deep state of timeless presence into awareness of the body, the breath and the senses, and via that the world, but still in a very present way. So you're just present, you're not interpreting, judging, naming, labeling any sense perceptions, they're just there. You allow them to arise and pass away, and you're rooted in this timeless presence, timeless awareness, and you experience all things through that. This is an enlightened state, perceiving everything through the eyes of loving awareness. So now on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. 1, breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises, the chest rises. 2, subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. clench the sphincter muscle a bit. So used to contract the flow of urine. Notice that squeezing. Notice any subtle sensation of the breath in your nostrils. Notice energy rising up your spine as you clench the sphincter muscle. Drawing it all the way up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. Again, just check in, scan your mind one more time. Just noticing any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations, but without judgment. There's no judgment. Without judgment, we'll just be in the timeless now, and the ego's out of business. And stay connected to this for the rest of the evening. So exhale, just blow it all out. Exhaling. Notice how the air flows out, chest and the stomach suck back in. Energy slides back down from the crown of your head, down the front channel of your body. Noticing the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're touching and feeling. Breathe in again. Maybe there's a subtle smell in your nose, taste in your mouth. Just noticing all these things. It's a very present, aware state. So you come back into the world, sense perceptions, but in a very present way. Maybe this is something I was referring to as about grounding, but you're not really rooting yourself into time-bound consciousness. Simply allowing these sense perceptions to arise and pass away without judgment. So that's forgiving or letting go. And that is the way to access this timeless essence, presence, loving awareness, whatever you want to call it, that is your true awareness. So to stay rooted in that, just practice today's lesson for the rest of the evening. Do it a couple more times before bed. Just reminding yourself that I am fearless and loving today, to connect with this awareness. So it is said, so it is done. And now on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just look around, take a minute just to observe what's going on. Notice that this awareness is still there. It underlies everything that you perceive. It's a deeper awareness underneath all sense perceptions. So spend a few seconds looking at any object randomly, and then just move on and look at something else. And again, at something else, and notice that it's exactly the same awareness. It's there, and this teaches you that there's only one awareness, and it's always there, even when you're perceiving with your senses. It's the same awareness as you had when closing your eyes and you were in a state of withdrawal from the world. And so God goes with you wherever you go. You realize this loving awareness goes with you wherever you go. That is a hallmark of enlightened beings throughout history, as they simply stay rooted in this awareness and take it with them wherever they go, and they interpret the world through that awareness. So I hope that this meditation and the session has helped you to do that, and that sets you up for a very loving, flowing evening and week ahead. And so I guess that brings us to the end of the session. If you need to go, there is actually a manual for teachers to do, but if you need to go, I'll just read that on my own. Or do you want to stay?
I think it's a bit late actually, Johnny. Can we do that tomorrow? Which part of manual for teachers is it?
It's section 27. So tomorrow there'll be a new one. So it's a new one every day. It's on the subject of the question, what is death? Which is interesting.
Right for that.
What is death? And he gives us another perspective on it, as he always does. So look, tell you how long that's going to be. Section 27 of the manual. What is death? And it is seven paragraphs. So
I think I'm going to call it a day. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Well, nice and relaxed. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
I think that's yeah. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. That's really helpful.
Yeah, okay. Tomorrow, I've got something in the evening with Sue and John, who actually introduced me to Sally. So we're gonna run an afternoon session at 12:30. That's okay.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
All right, lovely. Thank
you.
you. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Okay. All right. So I'm just going to get this prepped. Going to do a little translation and then a reading. What is death? Okay, so I'm just going to do some replacement. If you listen to the live stream, see what I'm doing. Just gonna do a little place and this becomes hits, and Father, Son, Word. Nothing in there. Okay. Cards becomes perfect loves. God is pure formless awareness, perfect love. Salvation is awakening. Creator becomes source. Creation becomes extension. Right, so almost there. All right, so this is section 27, the manual for teachers. So I'm going to read, which answers the question, what is death? So let's hear what Yeshua has to say about this one. What is death? So death, he says, is the central dream from which all illusions stem. Is it not madness to think of life as being born, aging, losing vitality, and dying in the end? We've asked this question before, but now we need to consider it more carefully. It is the one fixed, unchangeable belief of the world that all things in it are born only to die. This is regarded as, quote, the way of nature. Not to be raised to question, but to be accepted as the, quote, natural law of life. The cyclical, the changing and unsure. The undependable and the unsteady, waxing and waning in a certain way upon a certain path. All this is taken as the will of God, the will of perfect love. In our translation. And no one asks if a benign source could will this. And we have to ask that. How could a loving God, a loving awareness, create a world where all things must die? So in this perception of the universe, as pure formless awareness of perfect love created it, it would be impossible to think of it as loving. For who has decreed that all things pass away, ending in dust and disappointment and despair, can but be feared, can only be feared. So anything that's decreed this must be really not very nice, not benevolent, intent on ultimately killing all of its creations. He holds your little life in his hand, but by a thread. ready to break it off without regret or care, perhaps today. Or if he waits, yet is the ending certain. He waits, the ending is still certain. So we have a reprieve from death every day that we live, but the ending of death is still certain. We love such a God. We love such a God knows not of love. Does not know of love. Because he has denied that life is real. Death has become life's symbol. This world is now a battleground where contradiction reigns and opposites make endless war. Where there is death, is peace impossible. To peace is impossible where there is death. So he's saying that this is the illusion of all illusions, and we view God as the creator of a world that dies, and this is a very fearful perception. We cannot know of love then. Denied that life and love are real. Death is a symbol of the fear of perfect love. Its love is blotted out in the idea, which holds it from awareness like a shield held up to obscure the sun. The grimness of the symbol is enough to show it cannot coexist. Its pure formless awareness of perfect love holds an image of the extension of perfect love, the Son of God, or the extension of perfect love, in which he is laid to rest in devastation's arms, where worms wait to greet him, yet and to last a little while by its destruction. Yet the worms as well are doomed to be destroyed as certainly. And so do all things live because of death. Devouring is nature's, quote, law of life. Your formless awareness of perfect love is insane. God is insane. And fear alone is real. So this is the misperception. See that misperceptions, falsity, all goes together. The idea of death means that God must be insane and fear seems to be real. Curious belief that there is part of dying things that may go on apart from what will die does not proclaim a loving God, nor re-establish any grounds for trust. Keep it as God, actually. nor re-establish any grounds for trust. Death is real for anything. There is no life. Death denies life. But if there is reality in life, death is denied. No compromise in this is possible. There's either a God of fear, one of love. Either an awareness of fear or one of love. The world attempts 1,000 compromises, the world attempt 1,000 more. Not one can be acceptable to perfect love's teachers, because not one could be acceptable to pure formless awareness, perfect love. Yet when he did not make death, because it did not make fear, both are equally meaningless to him or it. So death is meaningless to pure formless awareness, perfect love. It has no meaning to what is eternal and cannot die. It must be a delusion. So the so-called reality of death is firmly rooted in the belief that God's Son, or perfect love's extension, is a body. And if God created bodies, pure formless awareness of perfect love created bodies, death would indeed be real. Pure formless awareness of perfect love would not be loving. There's no point at which the contrast between the perception of the real world and that of the world of illusions becomes more sharply evident. Death is indeed the death of perfect love. He is love. If it is love, now its own extension must stand in fear of it. Its own creation, God's own Son creation, its own extension must stand in fear of it. It is not source, but destroyer. And it is not source, but avenger. Source of life, destroyer. Not the source of love, but avenger. Terrible its thoughts and fearful its image. Terrible are its thoughts and fearful its image. To look on its extensions is to die. So this is the illusion of God, who invented to replace truth of pure formless awareness, perfect love. The last to be overcome will be death. It's a quote. In quotes. Of course, without the idea of death, there is no world. All dreams will end with this one. This is awakening's final goal. And the end of all illusions. And in death are all illusions born. One can be born of death and still have life. If one is born of perfect love and still can die. Inconsistencies, the compromises, and the rituals the world fosters in its vain attempts to cling to death, and yet to think love real are mindless magic, ineffectual and meaningless. Pure formless awareness of perfect love is, and in it all created things must be eternal. All extended beings must be eternal. Do you not see that otherwise it has an opposite? And fear would be as real as love. So if death is real, then duality is true. Love and life have an opposite. Seems to be more powerful than them because they can kill. Eternal life can die. Love can be overcome by death. So yes, you're saying that we must choose. Cannot reconcile life and death, love and fear. We must choose between them, and only in choosing what's true can we be free of what's false. So he says finally in paragraph 7, teacher of God, or teacher of perfect love. Your one assignment could be stated thus, or in this way. Accept no compromise in which death plays a part. Do not believe in cruelty, nor let attack conceal the truth from you. What seems to die has but been misperceived. Seems to die has only been misperceived and carried to illusion. Now it becomes your task to let the illusion be carried to the truth. Be steadfast only in this. Do not be deceived. Do not be deceived by the reality of any changing form. Truth neither moves nor wavers, nor sinks down to death and dissolution. And what is the end of death? Nothing but this. The realization that the Son of God, or an extension of perfect love, is guiltless now and forever. And they live eternally. Nothing but this, but do not let yourself forget, it is not less than this. So, if we realize that we're guiltless, guilt, you see, demands punishment, so guilt demands death. Do you realize you are guiltless now? You're innocent now. completely innocent, now and eternally. Nothing but this. Do not let yourself forget. It is not less than this. So, guilt demands punishment. Guilt is the great creator of all illusions, like death. So, if we realize we're guiltless, we're innocent, then we collapse the illusion of death. There is no need for death. There's no need for seeming punishment of death. There's only eternal life. So to summarize this, Yeshua is just saying death is nothing, death is an illusion, it's false, it's part of the ego's thought system of death. Fear, death, guilt, sin, attack all go hand in hand. And only realizing the truth that God is pure formless awareness of perfect love and nothing else will save us from this illusion. Only the truth will set us free from this illusion of death. That's what Yeshua came to teach us. He had to go through the crucifixion, seeming death of the body, to demonstrate that death is not real and that there is only eternal life. And that message remains with us. Very few have realized the extent of what he's saying. There is no death. There is no pain. There is no suffering. These things are all illusion in your mind. Bind you into this world and stop you from freeing your mind. Slave to the ego, or you're freed in spirit. Those are the choices. Either death is real and God is dead and fear reigns supreme, or death is illusion and God is life, eternal life, and cannot die. You must choose which belief system you want to believe. When you see the alternatives in the stark contrast, and you realize that death is just a painful illusion, and there's no choice. It's just obvious that you must choose eternal life and love, and you must let go of the belief in death entirely, realizing that it's not true in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't matter what seems to die in this world, it's all part of the illusion. So what was living was truly alive, can never die. So in other words, the body, whatever dies, is not real, it's an illusion. Only illusions can seem to die. The spirit, the pure form of soul, is perfect love. That is, the spirit cannot die. So I hope this section has helped you to get more clarity on what death is and make a choice in your mind not to believe in it in any way, shape, or form. That will ultimately set you free from all illusions. Central dream from which all illusions stem, as he says. Absolutely critical to the ego's thought system, that death be real. So you start questioning its belief, your belief in death, and ultimately undoing it, then you're on the road to freedom. So I wish you much freedom, eternal life, and pure formless awareness of that life essence for the rest of the evening and on into tomorrow. It's another session tomorrow afternoon from 12:30 UK time, 2:30 SA time. So join us then. It's me signing off for now, and just wishing you a very peaceful and flowing evening. Remember that no matter what seems to happen, you're only ever one breath away from your formless awareness of perfect love and the peace that it brings. Namaste, which means that pure formless awareness of perfect love in me acknowledges and honors that same loving awareness in you.